And thank you for hopping on the House of Growth to chat with me today. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Thanks for asking me along, actually. I'm quite excited about this.
Good. Yeah, welcome. First time I've had a client on hop on the show, so first time for me doing things like this, and yeah, it's a real pleasure. So, just for the benefit of anyone listening that doesn't know you, just share with us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Shabnam. I'm a solicitor. I work as a partner at Russell Cook Solicitors, and we specialise in sort of residential property issues, freehold purchases, lease extensions. I'm also a qualified yoga teacher, so I do teach yoga to my colleagues at work. Find it really, really useful for me doing the yoga. And I also do, so just telling me about me as a human being as well, really. But I also do martial arts, which is a historical European martial art where we practice with swords and daggers, and we do some unarmed grappling as well. So I really enjoy doing that too. And I like spending time with my ginormous family that live just around the corner. So we hang out together quite a lot as well. And, I'm really blessed to have lots of different circles of friends because I'm an old git. So I've been around for a while. So I've got uni mates, basketball mates, and sort of different, school mates as well that I still hang out with. So I'm really lucky to have that sort of network in my life.
Great. Yeah. And the way that you and I came to meet was through LinkedIn. Came to meet was through LinkedIn. We started chatting. I picked up on some content that you had posted, and I followed along for a little while because I love what you were posting. And yeah, so tell us a little bit about how you use LinkedIn and social platforms to, I suppose, inspire people and what you look to try and do in that area, because I think that's a really interesting part of your mission as well in my time knowing you.
Yeah, thank you. So I started using social media a lot more during lockdown, actually, especially lockdown one, which was my favorite lockdown, by the way. And so I started doing more posting on Instagram and on LinkedIn. And what I started noticing about LinkedIn is it's kind of moved away from just being about professional jobs, networking. And in my role as a lawyer, it's not just about posting legal updates. It's sort of become a bit more than that. People talk about mental health issues, and they'll open up a little bit more about their personal lives and sort of share ideas and things like that. And that's something that's quite important to me. So I've been doing a bit more of that lately. So I post about things like self-care, the importance of self-care, looking after yourself, mental health issues, and equality, diversity, and inclusion issues are really important to me as well. So just as that background, that's how we met through LinkedIn. So I posted an article on, a post on LinkedIn a few months ago about how there was a real worry that a lot of legal events were focused around alcohol. So you'd go for a drink, or you'd go for a dinner. A lot of networking events were, there was a lot of alcohol there, and there wasn't really much by way of alcohol-free drinks and soft drinks. And I think that's really quite non-inclusive. Like, I don't have a problem with people drinking, absolutely not. But I just think for a lot of people out there, it can be really difficult if you're from a religious background or a personal background. And this is important. There are a lot of people that don't drink. It's not just because you're Muslim or whatever. You've got people that are going through mental health issues, health kicks, fertility, pregnancy, that sort of thing, that won't drink. And you've also got people that just don't feel comfortable drinking or having that pressure to drink. And I found that a lot of people were being left out of those sort of networking events and missing out on that, sort of forming relationships and friendships and networking opportunities. So I posted about it, and that's how we got in touch. And I think that's part of what I want to, that's part of my message, really. I want to show people that it's okay to open up about these things. And I want to show people that there is support out there. And one of the key things I shared a while ago was sharing is learning. And I really do think if you put something on social media where you're opening up a little bit about how you're feeling about a specific situation, you might get a lot of feedback back from people that actually gives you really good advice and really good tips. And exactly the same way you can share those tips with other people. And I've found that really, really useful. And I've seen that with my following. It's kind of grown a little bit. I'm trying to grow it more, obviously. But the other thing I need to be mindful of, obviously, is I'm still, I work for a law firm, so I have to operate within certain constraints, and I have to respect that as well.
Yeah, looking at your page and the stuff you post, you strike that balance incredibly well, and you really, I think, have captured a lot of people by sharing, or captured the hearts of people by sharing about how you're feeling, like what you're going through, and that's one of the things I think is so wonderful about your shares, because one of the things that I've learned through coaching and facilitating various circles that I do, is that lots of the challenges that we face, particularly if we're working in the same industry, are similar, and one of the toughest things is when we feel like we're facing a challenge alone, and that no one else understands, or no one else can relate, and just seeing someone that we can relate to talking about facing a similar challenge just releases that pressure just a little bit. And just on occasions, just looking through the comments on some of your posts, I can see that it provides a lot of inspiration for people to either speak up, start to challenge the status quo, start to organize different types of events, or even just have a little bit of acceptance for their own situation. So yeah, I want to just say, really powerful work. Keep up the great sharing that you're doing on that side of things, and it was one of the reasons that I was inspired to reach out and offer initially a free coaching session, just because I was really inspired by your mission and everything that you were trying to achieve, and to do that alongside keeping your ambitions as a solicitor as well. It was not like, oh, I'm a solicitor, but really this is what I'm passionate about. So now I want to succeed at all of these things, and I want to really move forwards in my life in all of these different areas. And that was one of the things that I've always admired about you and the way you carry yourself.
Thank you. Honestly, it means a lot, really, to hear you say that. And yeah, one of the things that I do try to do with LinkedIn as well is try to encourage people to have those conversations. Don't be scared to speak out about something, and don't be afraid to say that, I'm having a problem with this, or I need a bit of guidance on something else, or just to sort of be more open about it. And one of the things I'm trying to do is, like I said, to encourage those conversations, maybe change the language and how we look at things, and sort of destigmatize. So it's okay. I know it sounds really cliched, but it's okay to not be okay. So it's okay to say, I'm feeling a bit stressed, or it's okay to say, has anyone got any advice on this particular situation? And I think that's what can drive change. So like with the alcohol thing, a lot of people spoke to me about it sort of privately, discreetly, but they would never say anything about it because they didn't know if it was appropriate, or if it was the right thing to do, or if they would just get shut down. So a lot of people just accept the status quo. But by me speaking out, and by no means am I the only person that's spoken about it, but one thing I'm proud of is I have encouraged other people to speak out about it. So I've noticed more posts about the same sort of thing. It's this whole sort of inclusivity thing that's quite important to me, is that it has actually led to some changes, which has been fantastic. So I've now gone to events since that post, and since we've kind of raised that issue a bit more. And a lot of organizations are doing so much more now about, looking after those people that don't drink, or that don't want to drink at work events. And so for me, that's a really good thing. It has actually helped to, continue to drive some sort of a change, in the legal industry, but also in other industries. I knew when I posted that post on LinkedIn, I was so shocked by the amount of engagement I got. It probably got more engagement than all my posts put together, and then more than that. But it did actually open my eyes that there's a lot of other industries like finance, insurance, and other areas where people do feel a bit left out if they don't drink. And it's quite dangerous, obviously, especially if you're in the lawyers in the legal industry. If you're an aspiring lawyer, you're a student, or you're quite new, then it's going to be even harder for you to sort of get into those circles. I'm quite lucky because I'm older. I've been around a long time, and I've done a lot of networking. Personally, I'm okay going to an event and maybe being the only person there that's not drinking, because I'm probably got quite a big mouth. I'm okay sort of just going up and approaching people, but not everyone's like that. And I think it's good, really good to have these conversations, and to have no shame in sort of speaking out about these things. And like you said, it's difficult as well, because and it's really good to know that I've encouraged other people. So I had a few messages from my post where people have said it's really refreshing to have a partner talking about these things. It makes you more human. And it's also made people see the firm in a different light, because the firm I work for is very supportive. It's a supportive environment. And it's people are seeing that we're like that as a firm, you know, and that's a good thing for the firm as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes sense that, you know, you're clearly like free to have that open dialogue online, which is a reflection of the environment that you're in. And you know, you talk about the tangible change that you've seen in terms of people messaging you and talking about the changes that they've been able to make, and then there's the intangible change. You know, the other leaders at law firms that see the sort of interest that your posts have garnered and start to challenge their own thinking around events. You know, there's I'm sure there's a whole lot of change that's happened or is percolating, which is intangible or you can't relate back to. So yeah, lots of powerful change there. And yeah, so talking about, I was going to say our industry then, because you know I worked in legal for 19 years. I was a barrister's clerk for 19 years before stepping into coaching now, and I still coach a lot of lawyers as well, solicitors, barristers, and support staff in those industries as well. So I still see myself connected to this industry, and partly because it's one that gave me so much, you know, so much experience, so many wonderful memories as well. So the industry that we're in, and I'd love to get on to talking about coaching, because when I made the transition, when I told my colleagues at the time that I was handing in my notice for, you know, really well paid job that I was successful at, I was doing really well. I felt like I had a career path to the top, and I was doing so to start my own business in coaching, life leadership coaching, which now becomes holistic success coaching. There was a lot of confusion. You know, people, it was 60 to 70% of the responses to that were, well, what is coaching? Like, tell me a little bit more about what that means. So I'd love to hear from you. Like, what was your perspective of coaching before you and I had an interaction? I don't think I've ever asked you this question, so I'd love to know, like, what your perspective on it was, or what your experience of it was before we started chatting.
Yes, that's a good question. So I'd come across it obviously over the years, and in my previous job, I used to work for a government-funded body that gives free advice to people on leasehold issues. We kind of coached the people that we managed, but we never did it with any sort of rigid framework or, you know, looking into it deeply. But we did do that with people in our teams, and we always found it quite useful. So if someone came to us with a particular problem or a particular issue, we were able to sort of, I suppose, coach them through it. So I had a little bit of awareness of it. I'd had a few coaching sessions a few years ago, but it was for a specific thing that I was doing in my life. So it was very much in line with that. So that was kind of like my background to it. And then when you and I sort of got in touch through LinkedIn, it was actually a really good time, because I was a bit stressed in like different things. You know, work was getting quite busy, and you know, just to be honest, I suppose I was having some issues in my personal life, and I really needed some kind of help, some kind of guidance. And it was a time for me to sort of reach out and say, well, actually, I can't do this on my own. I might not be doing it the right way. I might not be navigating things in the right way. And I need someone that's going to help me. So I think it's really important for people to look into coaching, and whether it's something that works for them. And I think the reason why we work well together is because you did work in the legal field for so many years. So you've got a good understanding of, you know, the kind of pressures and the stresses that come along with that. And I think, you know, just with your own life experience as well. So I found it really useful. And one of the things that surprised me is that I'd kind of always more or less associated it more with professional aspects of my life. And I think it's only since we started working together that I've sort of realized that I can use those tools and that guidance that you've given me, and that have kind of come out from me as well in our sessions, in my personal situations too, to sort of help navigate.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say that that's a quality that's called coachability. You have coachability because you have the ability to uncover insights in a session. You certainly functioning, to say the least. When we met, it wasn't like you were down in the depths. You had some challenges, but you were getting by, and it was about getting from that functioning to that optimal level, and then combining that with the self-awareness and willingness to become more self-aware, and then ultimately translating that into change in your real life, which that's the essence of coachability, being able to uncover the insights and then being able to implement them in your day-to-day life as well. So that's a great credit to you that you have that skill and that you've developed it, as it were. Yeah. So yeah, when you thought about signing up for coaching, like what were the drawbacks for you? What were the reasons that you thought, oh, I'm not so sure about this? Was it time commitment, energy commitment, costs? What were the reasons that you were hesitant, let's say, if any?
I suppose one of the things that I was hesitant about, to be honest, was the cost. We talked about this because it's, there is a cost to it, but we talked about it. And because I'd seen the benefit of, our initial few chats, and I'd already started making some changes, and I started to see it as an investment in myself. And I think when you look at it that way, then you think, well, of course there's going to be a cost to it, but you've got to see it as an investment. And I think that's what kind of sort of like moved me to sort of thinking, I'm going to do this, and at least I'm going to give it a go. So you and I signed up for a particular program, and we went along with that, and it's really worked well for me so far. And I've seen changes in my life already since we've been working together. So I think that was probably, obviously, and for a lot of people, that may be something that makes them hesitant about it. And I think also it's just, if you're coming to coaching from a situation where you're feeling really overwhelmed with, work or life or whatever it might be, it's quite hard to then sort of then think, oh, I need to then carve out, X amount of time per week to do coaching now. It's like another thing I've got to do. But I think if you can understand that it's almost like back to front, but the idea of it is it's going to help you to deal with all those things that might be overwhelming or you might see as overwhelming.
Yeah, got it. So and yeah, that's one of the things, isn't it? It's like making that upfront investment. So yeah, it's like you make that time investment and then you see a return on that investment. People often talk about time. I tend to think of things as in terms of energy. Like we all have the same amount of time, but the way we apply our energy to that time is very different. And if we have too much stress, if there's an objective hour and during that hour you're highly stressed and you've got too much to do and you're overworked and you're burnt out and you're mentally not functioning well and you're emotionally overwhelmed and you're physically drained, it's a very different hour than one when you feel organized and prepared, you know what you're going to do and you're settled. So yeah, it's about making that investment so that the time that you have outside of it is managed more effectively, more efficiently. There's a Buddhist proverb that's I forget the exact wording. I'll butcher it a little bit, but it's about a woodsman, and the story goes that a woodsman is asked to chop down a tree within 10 minutes, and is asked, what is the first thing that you would do? And the woodsman says, I would spend the first 9 minutes sharpening my axe. And this is the idea that it's about getting prepared as well as you possibly can, so that you can act with swiftly and with maximum efficiency and effectiveness when the time comes. And that's kind of how I see coaching sessions as an opportunity to sharpen the axe, as it were.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree with you. So I think that's what, that was one of the things for me, was just thinking, it's just another thing I've got to fit into my already sort of hectic diary. But what I've got as a result of it is I'm able to handle that diary a lot better, exactly as you say, just using my time more wisely and investing my energy in a better way than I was a few months ago.
And I suppose this is one of the reasons that I felt compelled to dive into coaching. We work in an industry where many people charged by the hour, you know, like, and in a world where time isn't equal, and you can impact your energetic approach to that time, it seemed like a really important thing. So just thinking about energy a little bit more widely, I'd love to turn it up a little bit and put you under a little bit of, I'm not going to say test, I'm not really a test kind of person, but I'd love to just explore the idea of energy a little bit more, because you and I have done some workshop sessions, and you've taken part in the Energy Leadership Index assessment, which has given you an idea of your energetic profile, which demonstrates energetically how you show up typically, how you respond to stress situations, and I would argue you've probably become a little bit of an expert in sort of managing and understanding your energy and the energy of others. So I'd love to hear in your own words how you see kind of this idea of energy leadership and the concepts that surround it. And I suppose there are no wrong answers here, I'll just say, because, you know, I've worked with over 20 clients one-to-one on energy leadership and, you know, this framework. And I would go as far as saying that there's, you know, 20 different ways to apply it. It's a framework, not a formula. It's for individuals to interpret and use via their own consciousness, via their own self-awareness. So yeah, no wrong answers with that being the foundation. But how do you, what's been the benefits of using the energy leadership framework to your advantage?
So I think, so I hadn't come across the Energy Leadership Index before we met. So I'd done, you know, various like personality tests and things like that over the years. But it was really interesting to do this because it was a really detailed assessment. I remember when I was going through it, and when I got my report, and I looked at it again this morning before we were catching up today, and it just reminded me, I was actually really shocked when I saw it. And maybe that's just my perception, and you're going to say, you know, you should look at the positives as well. But when I saw so with the energetic profile, which you explained to me was how I show up in situations, so work and, you know, personal life stuff, it was kind of okay. It was fairly balanced. You know, I was kind of using, you know, just to sort of explain the energy levels, you've got the catabolic energies leading all the way up to the anabolic. So you've got the 7 different energy levels, which was all new to me. And the catabolic energy levels are sort of like the early ones. It's where we're kind of more sort of like victim mentality, can be a little bit more destructive, and, you know, even a bit of anger in there. But then when you go towards sort of the level 4, level 5, etc., that's when you're a bit more in control, you're making more choices. It's a bit more sort of self-nurturing way of looking at it. So it all sounds, you know, really sensible. But when I looked at my my energetic profile was really balanced across all seven levels of energy, which was okay. It wasn't a massive surprise. But what really shocked me was the energetic stressors profile, which is, you know, as you explained to me, because I wanted to know what the difference was. And you said to me, well, the stressors profile is how you handle stress. And what really shocked me is that over 50% was in level 1 energy, which is like really catabolic. You know, it's the most it's the number 1 energy for catabolic sort of behaviors. And my instinctive reaction was like, oh my gosh, this is really bad. But what you sort of explained to me was there's a place for all those energies. So, you know, you might have situations where you do need to be a little bit sort of like angry and impulsive and let's get this done, you know. But I think what I've learned from it, and I'm hoping it's manifested itself in my, you know, the way I deal with personal relationships and sort of in work situations to maybe to a lesser extent, is to start moving towards those more anabolic energies. So what I've started doing in terms of putting it into practice is doing more active listening. So if I'm in a situation and someone's talking to me, if they're saying something that maybe I don't agree with, rather than coming across as, you know, dismissive or just instantly not agreeing with them, you know, actually just listening to what they've got to say, you know, acknowledging what they're saying and saying, you know, I hear what you're saying. I can see what you're saying. And then sort of validating it and saying, you know, I understand why you feel like that. And then looking at ways that we can work to improving that. So I have seen it in certain situations, and I've seen it in, and it wasn't really an issue so much with work situations, but I'm seeing how I'm dealing with stress a lot better and how I'm investing that energy a lot better. And I think the other thing was, I do sometimes have this sort of dramatic, fatalistic energy sometimes. So I'll give you a proper example. When so with the sword fighting that I do, once a week, I'd taken a break from it last year for legitimate reasons. I had other stuff going on, but there were a few weeks more recently where I didn't go, and that was more, to be honest, to do with anxiety and stress and things like that. And what I did, which wasn't healthy, was not only did I not go to swords, I just beat myself up about it. I was just, oh, I haven't gone, and I'm being lazy, or I'm stupid, or I'm just, really actually knocking myself for not going, which is kind of ridiculous, because the time that you're not there, you're just feeling bad, like a victim for not going. And then we had a specific conversation about this. I remember a while ago where you said to me, start sort of shifting your mindset more to like the choices. So if you're not doing something, what are you choosing to do instead? And that was a much healthier way of looking at it, because it sort of made me start moving more towards the anabolic energies, where I was looking after myself and more grounded and more of a growth mindset. And it was really good, because on one hand, it encouraged me to go because the choice was actually I should go. But there were a couple of weeks I didn't go, it was just what I needed, because what I was choosing to do instead was actually just to look after myself, because I've had a long day or something, and maybe chill out. And even if that looked like just watching TV or something, it was actually something that I needed to do. And just shifting that mindset to making it more like I'm choosing to do that instead was really healthy for me.
Yeah, great example of you putting the framework into practice and using it to the word. I mean, you could use a variety of different language. I would say shift your own internal energy. Like same situation. I'm not going to swords, and situation A is I'm being hard on myself. I'm beating myself up for not doing that. And those are thoughts which lead to certain emotions, and thoughts and emotions lead to certain actions. Whereas, same scenario. Okay, I'm not going to swords. What am I choosing to do? I'm choosing to do this at home. I'm choosing to spend time at home and relax and recuperate. Different set of thoughts, different set of emotions, different outcome. And this is, we can, when we talk about changing our response to stress, we immediately jump to like the big things. Right? I've got this massive thing in my life. I've got this really big challenge. How on earth am I going to remove all of the stress from this? And this is a really good example of practice. You practice in those smaller moments, those day-to-day moments, because stress is stress. We say like, I'm stressed about this thing. And it's like, if it's big enough, yeah, you're stressed about that thing. But normally the reason that we're stressed to a level that is hampering our progress or our ability to achieve our goals is because there's stress coming from lots of different directions. And you can just as easily start to practice on shifting the energy and removing the stress and the judgment and everything that goes with it, and the pressure and the overwhelm in smaller situations, so that we become more practiced at doing it, and so that we have less stress when we encounter some of the bigger challenges in our life, as it were. So really, really, really great example there, and powerful use of the framework. Thank you for sharing that.
No, that's okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's just really interesting. I'd be quite interested to sort of see what my results are now if I did it sort of in the future. And I'm hoping there'd be some changes. And one of the other things that's come out of, the coaching and just generally with my sort of, being passionate about mental health as well and self-care is, for me, the theme of this year has been more actually slowing down and sort of learning to use my time more effectively and just taking a step back. And it's been really good. And that's one of the main things I've got out of the coaching, actually, is just learning to look after myself more. And I'm hoping that means, I'm making a move towards the more, anabolic energies as well.
Yeah, great sharing. Thank you very much. So just thinking about where you want to go, as I've said before, I see kind of great, ambition in you, and I think there's lots that you will achieve in terms of serving the world, both as a solicitor and otherwise. So So yeah, what do you think is on the horizon for you? What do you hope to achieve this year and beyond? What are your dreams?
Yeah, so with work, I mean, I'm a partner in the team where I'm at, so things are going pretty well there. And one of the exciting things we're doing at the moment is that we're recruiting, so we're looking to bring someone else into the team. And obviously, we'd spoken about this before, so we've had interviews this week, and so that's something I'm quite excited about. We're going to bring someone into the team. It's kind of like a risky move in a way sometimes if you're bringing a new person in, because you sort of think, oh, is there going to be enough work for them, and sort of like the natural worries. But I think you have to take those risks in order to sort of move forward and progress and hopefully do bigger things. So that's something I'm looking forward to, just having fresh blood in the team, someone that's going to be on board with, getting out there, helping with networking, bringing in new clients, pitching for new work. So I'm really excited about that. And as a team, we're doing really well. We're performing pretty well. Relationships are good in the team. So that's quite exciting. And I think other things, maybe just sort of continuing to build my own profile. Again, within the limitations of my job, and I appreciate that. But just, putting myself out there, continuing to put myself out there as I mean, I don't want to say advocate. It sounds a bit, I don't know. I'm not really very confident, to be honest. I wouldn't want to go that far. But just sort of like a spokesperson for, self-care, mental health, and those sorts of issues as well. And just keeping that dialogue going and letting people know that it's okay to talk about these things. We can help each other. We don't have to be that perfect lawyer, just getting on with the day-to-day work sort of thing. So I think that, and doing podcasts like this, is something I haven't done that many. So it's something I'd like to continue doing. I want to get out there. I want people to know, me, and I want to help drive some sort of change.
Yeah, I love that, and well, it's been a pleasure for me to get to know you, and so I'm sure other people listening to this will want to connect with you. So why don't you tell people where they can find you on LinkedIn or anywhere else if they can find you anywhere else?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is basically my full name. So it's Shabnam Ali-Khan. So please do feel free to reach out, connect, message me, engage. That'd be fantastic. I'm also on Instagram as @Shabesco, which is a nickname that's stuck for a long time. So it's SHABESCO. So they're both very similar platforms. I use them in quite similar ways. I suppose maybe with Instagram it's a little bit more mental health orientated. There's not going to be so much law on there, but I think they, you can use them in similar ways as well. But yeah, please do feel free to connect.
Great, yeah, and I'll pop your both profiles in the notes to the show in case anyone wants to connect directly with you there. Yeah, and the thing that was coming through for me a moment ago when you said that you don't feel particularly confident when you're posting, it was that it's even more important to keep doing it. I think that to see someone posting such interesting stuff and getting great engagement and raising so much awareness around really important causes, in spite of the fact that there's perhaps that little bit of lack of confidence there, makes it all the more inspiring. So yeah, keep doing the work that you're doing, keep posting, keep getting on podcasts, keep learning, keep growing. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to do this. It's been a pleasure to chat about you, your goals, what's on the horizon for you, and yeah, just hear a little bit about how coaching has served you. And yeah, anything else that you want to share or say before we close this out?
I just want to sort of stress that the importance of coaching, like to me, it has made a big difference. Just, some of it seems really easy, but just, when I approached you last year with something I was struggling with, and you actually just helped sort of really unfold it all for me and say, well, what do you think's happening and what are the options? You made me more aware that there are choices out there. So I really think that would apply in any kind of situation, whether it's your personal life or your professional life. Coaching can really help you navigate it, just really help you sort of take a step back and think, okay, I've got this problem. What can I do? Is there someone I can talk to about it? Is there support that's available? And just by having these conversations with you just opened that up for me, and I was able to then speak to other people about it. And there was a support network there that I wasn't really fully tapped into. And it really helped me with that situation. And just things like how to structure your day, because it can be really overwhelming, you know, just working in any industry, and just know, structuring my day. I now block out bits in my diary just to focus on one task at a time. So I think I still do it sometimes, but before we met, I was very much of a slave to the pop-ups. And a bit of a gazelle, and we've got all these screens, so I'd be looking at one screen typing away and something pops up on the other, and I'm like, oh, what's going on over there? And it's not healthy, because you're not really going to get much done effectively. So just, again, sort of slowing down and just working your way slowly through things as well. So you've really helped bring that out in me, so thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know, I'm a, you know, I coach, but I'm also get coached. You know, I have a business coach, I have a life coach, and you know, I need those avenues to keep me on track. And yeah, you know, like there's coaches out there. This is one of the beautiful things about the world this day. Whatever you're trying to do, whether it's content, whether it's leadership, whether it's executive presence, whether it's holistic success, there's people out there that can support you in any way. And I suppose I'll take an opportunity to say, if there's anyone that's listened to this far into the podcast and you'd like a free coaching session with me, just let me know that you come via the podcast, and I'd be happy to offer a complimentary session. And yeah, you know, for me, it's not about coaching with me. I value this as a modality. It's one of the reasons why I have a lot of coaches on the podcast, just to talk about the modality of coaching to open people's minds and eyes and hearts to the possibility of getting a type of support that's going to help them move towards their goals. So yeah, it's been a pleasure to do this, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you in session later in the week.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
No worries, anytime. Stay well.